What's going on? What's going on, good people? Welcome to the Texas League Video Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dwayne. I stacked my losing streak this week, Morrow, along with my co-host, Jared. Jared, tell the people who you are.
I'm the commissioner. Actually, looking at the standings, I'm number one in my division, and I too snapped a small losing streak.
Indeed. And even our third co, this is also one of those rare weeks where all three of the hosts won their game. So we're excited about that for sure. So, with that being said, Jared, hit us with this week's kickoff question.
It's a two-part question. As you know, we have someone who has yet to get into the win column, so they are currently sitting at 0-6. If you were the manager of that team, at what point would you begin fire sale status? And with that, based on that, are there any players on your team that you would not trade away?
So that's an excellent question. So, first part of the question, I have to go with mathematically, if I get to 0-7, I know my chances of making the playoffs are statistically very low. So the other half of your question builds into that. Because we are a keeper league and a dynasty league, and next year is not a reset year for us, then I would start looking at which players that if I made it to the end of the season, I would want to keep. Um, and then start trading away the tradable pieces to move up to get some extra early round picks. So who do I have that's producing that's worth a fourth round pick next year? Who do I have that's even worth a six next year? You know, I think you have to be strategic. Like either you build for next year or you stand pat and say, let's see if I can still play spoiler. But me personally, if I was sitting at 0-7, I would begin the process of, yeah, let's start building for next season.
Yeah, a couple years ago, I had the unfortunate. I think I started 0-7 or 1-6. It wasn't looking good, but I had the luxury of going into a reset year, so I could just trade everybody away and stockpile some extra draft picks. I actually, finished second thanks to Chris finally breaking his finals losing streak. Which you know what? Going forward, we're gonna put all the blame on Memphis because if he doesn't draft Najee Harris, then Chris gets him. And so that's where the Christian McCaffrey came from.
Right. You
That's what we're
know,
gonna pass the blame.
it be like that sometimes, man. Where sometimes you are and find yourself in a situation where the computer picks for you. Now, I definitely don't always agree with the computer's picks, because they'll take a defense in the fourth round in a heartbreak. And I've seen that happen before, and that is ugly. But yeah, but in this case, the computer was like, y'all must be out your minds. This dude should have been the second pick. Here we are at the fifth pick, and y'all haven't grabbed him. So guess what? Here you go. He's coming off the board. And it worked out for him. All right.
Yeah,
So
still working out for him.
it definitely worked out for him. So NFL Week 6, who do you want to give a shout out to as a top fantasy performer of the week?
I'm gonna give my fantasy shout out this week to somebody who's not on my team in this league, but my work league, Raheem.
Indeed.
Because when everyone's favorite rookie, fantasy rookie, not playing for 4 weeks because he's on the IR, Raheem Mostert stepped up and just kept running to the tune of I think he had about 35 points in my other league, which helped me get a win.
He had 115 yards rushing with 2 tuds, 3 catches with 17 yards, and a third touchdown. So big week for Raheem for sure. Um, Excellent. I'm going to give my fantasy shout out of the week to the top performing fantasy quarterback of the week, none other than Dak Prescott. So, as much grief as Dak has gotten this season for his performances on the field, whether it's been deserved or not, and some of it has definitely been deserved, he did bounce back to lead his team to a victory. 272 yards passing, one touchdown, no interceptions, and he had 40 yards rushing with a touchdown. His 18-yard rushing touchdown, I believe they said it was the longest rushing touchdown of his career, but it was enough for him to beat out Tua as the top performing QB of the week. So good job, Tua. I'm sorry, I mean, good job, Dak, on coming back to win that. Who do you want to give a fantasy participation award to this week?
I'm gonna give the fantasy participation trophy to someone that was on my cousin's team this week, Jahan Dobson, who scored a whopping 0 points. Thank you, Jahan, for helping me win this week.
Indeed, indeed. I'm going to give it to another quarterback, and that goes to Jalen Hurts, who, although he did score almost 20 fantasy points, three interceptions, especially the interception that eventually led to the game winning points for the Jets, is unacceptable. He was forcing passes. He was not comfortable. Like, he was not, after jumping out to a lead, he just did not look like the player that we're used to seeing. So, yeah, I'm gonna need to see more of you, Jalen Hurts. All right. So my question for the week is something that came up because we like to do a little bit of a fantasy focused discussion. Sometimes it's on the NFL, sometimes it's on fantasy. This week our question is about fantasy football. We'll call it strategy. And it came up in two different scenarios, two different ways. So let's say it's Sunday night football or even Monday night football. Your team has a lead and your opponent has played all of their players. You have a lead and you have players left to go. Is it fair or foul to sit your remaining players so that they do not have a possibility of creating negative points in order for you to lose the game?
I don't see anything wrong with sitting them personally, unless there is an explicit rule that says you can't. Like, I know our league has a like kind of an unofficial rule that you have to have a complete roster, but that's more so for people trying to keep people from tanking at the end of the year to get better draft picks.
Right.
But if you bench your players just to make sure they don't lose you no points because you've already won, no, I don't see anything wrong with it.
So now, how close does the game have to be? Because I will say this, I had two different friends that contacted me, and I gave two different pieces of advice. One friend has a team that only had a 2 point lead in their league. Defenses only about 25% of the time. I'm sorry, well, at least 25% of the time, defenses end up with negative points in their league. And she only had a 2 point lead. I recommended that she sit her defense. Now, she had the Cowboys defense, which historically is pretty good. But coming off of that 30-point loss to the 49ers, I didn't think it was a good idea to roll them out, um, especially with the injuries they're dealing with that slim of a margin. The other friend had two offensive players, not defenses, and within our group chat, he was kind of shamed into playing his player by one of the people that says you should always grip it and rip it and just let the chips fall where they may. And it worked out for him where he was able to still get the win. But me personally, I wouldn't have cared. I would have let that peer pressure affect me. I would have set them suckers down so fast it would have made your head spin.
Yeah. As somebody in this group chat, I would just like to make it known that somebody made a comment talking about play the players, and then you co-signed it by posting videos behind it.
Well, no, I said that I used this idea that Ted Williams would have said play the players. So we're gonna jump off into baseball for just a second. Ted Williams, the last baseball player to ever hit 400 in a season, going into the last day of the regular season, 2 games to go. Ted Williams statistically, because he had batted 0.39999999997 or something like that. Officially, if he didn't play any more at bats, he would have been credited with hitting 400. Ted Williams said, I never considered not playing. He played both games of the doubleheader and hit 6 out of 8 to take his batting average up to 406. Ted Williams is one of the greatest baseball players ever. Fantasy football doesn't have that much margin for error. So while I respect Ted Williams and I understand his mindset, I would have sat my players and guaranteed victory. See, ask Mario Cristobal if he should have if he should have sat his players or a victory formation works out better on your behalf. Because if you got it, they call it victory formation for a reason. Ask the Oregon coach if you should go for it on 4th down on your own 44 or punt it away after what happened Saturday. And then you tell me if you should have sat those players. There is nothing unheroic about securing the victory. So, like I said, while I can absolutely understand and give rationale behind why that person's advice was what it was, I personally would have sat my players and had a good night's sleep in my victory. Anyway, though. All right. Let's move on into checking out the results of week 6 in ye good old Texas League. So we're going to start with our high score of the week. Now, this particular matchup is with one of our top scoring teams in the league versus our currently winless team, 2 boobs, 2 balls, 1 goal. And we see how that worked out. Jared, what's going on with Chuck and Melanie, man?
I don't just don't. Well, George Kittle not scoring anything didn't help. Josh Allen, I thought was going to take advantage of a subpar Giants defense. They didn't. Like you said, Jalen Hurts with 3 interceptions. That's going to affect your receivers. They still won over 100 points, but
Right?
my fantasy MVP for the week, Raheem Mostert, with his 32 points. And
Right?
who was that? Who was that with 21 down there? Travis Etienne. Yeah. So
Right.
yeah.
Out of nowhere. You know? They came back across the pond and still kept winning. So good job, Jacksonville. Yeah, this was, Raheem took all those carries that he had been splitting and capitalized, and this is just inexcusable from Josh Allen. There's no reason for Josh Allen to have had the game that he had against the Giants. Josh Allen has got to stop playing down to his opponent. That's the knock on him right now. Like Josh Allen, and just to be frank, Josh Allen got one more season before people start doubting if he is him, because his skills right now are not translating into what they need to be for his team. Like for them to be a contender, I didn't see that on Sunday. Like they were one Tyrod Taylor audible away from a loss. Tyrod Taylor doesn't audible away from that play action pass at the end of the first half. There's a whole different ball game. If the officials call the correct pass interference on Darren Waller on back-to-back plays like they should have, who knows what happens when they get to replay that fourth down again. But Josh Allen's got to do better. So shout out to the shirtless wonder, Marcel, for getting high score of the week and for keeping two boobs, two balls, one goal winless. Next up, we had the family affair going on and the subject of discussion of do I or don't I play play my last player. So now I'm not gonna lie. I thought this was going to be your downfall right here. Um, with with you going back to Justin Field, but that's exactly how it is in fantasy. You know, you bench a guy, he goes off 2 straight games. The moment you put his funky behind back in the lineup, all of a sudden now he can't make it through the whole game. That's just how the fantasy gods do you, you know? Uh, so thankfully, Amon-Ra St. Brown and Cooper Kupp both did what they did, and Dotson gave your cousin the big fat goose egg to get you the W and get you back on the winning side of things. That is so crazy that you are 3-3. We have what do we have? 17 teams in our league. That's 3-3 right now.
I literally think it's six. Let me pull up the standings because now I'm intrigued. Like, there's a bunch of people at that.
So we got 3-5-1. Yeah. 3-5-1s, 2-2-4s, 1-0-6. So yeah, we have 6 teams sitting at 3-3 in our league. See, Duke should be proud of that little math I just did in my head right now. He wasn't even here to see it. But it got our commissioner the win.
Six. We got 6 teams at 3-3.
Yeah.
Like half the league.
Had he played, let's see. And so again, had he played Kareem Hunt, this is a whole different discussion today. But it is what it TI is. Let's go to our other co-host, Dr. Deuce Mathis King, coming back, going for a second victory in a row over the previously undefeated, now on a 2-game losing streak, Kirkwood. Jared, what's going on, Chris?
I didn't realize he was on a 2-game losing streak till you just said that. Adam Thielen is making a fantasy resurgence because no one expected him to do much in Carolina, but he came through with 23 points. And the Ravens decided they were going to go to London, and since they were in London on a soccer field, play soccer and let Justin Tucker score all the points.
18 points. That is crazy.
That is. And then the Kansas City Chiefs defense playing the Denver Broncos. They don't do a lot on offense. I'm looking at 4 sacks and 2 interceptions.
Yep.
And a low scoring affair. 16 points for them.
Absolutely. So yeah, and Derrick Henry going over 100 combined yards in a losing effort over in London. But there we go. So Kirkwood on a 2-game losing streak, Mathis King on a 2-game winning streak. Nothing wrong with that.
Jalen Hurts didn't carry it. Jalen Hurts didn't have a great week. McCaffrey got hurt and went out early.
Indeed. And still, but the crazy thing is, still managed to keep that touchdown streak going before he went out the game. So we'll see. But absolutely. So now we go over to one of our last undefeated team previously before this week coming in. And we had armed robbery versus the Big Green. Tua and Tyreek did exactly what I thought they were going to do. That stack was what it was supposed to be. The problem was no one else on the team decided to show up. Cam Akers 2, Ferguson 2, Montgomery 3.8. I mean,
He got hurt though.
Yeah, but I mean, he still only put up
He
4 points.
was,
4 points. You know what I'm saying? So, and pretty much on the other side of the field, Rodgers' team, just about everybody went into double digits, and especially you getting 23 points from Minnesota. You know, in a very low scoring game, but they dominated uh, against a backup in Chicago like they were supposed to. So Joe Burrow, even though his team got the win against Seattle, didn't blow the doors off, but he did enough to get his team a victory and enough to put up some decent points. So shout out to Rodgers for giving Big Green their first L. And then in
and to
our
make it even worse, it was her birthday on Sunday, and she took an L. That's so
oh, that's just cold.
fantasy God said no love.
So we have in our second to last week 6 matchup, Company Man versus Muff Divers. Muff Divers, after having a rough couple of first weeks, trying to make a bounce back. And go ahead, Jared, break it down.
Oh, Lamar Jackson didn't have a great game because, like I said, Justin Tucker scored all the points, but 62 rushing yards, a passing touchdown, 223. So we're looking at little short of 300 yards. Wasn't a great game by normal Lamar standards, but it was enough to offset what Patrick Mahomes did because he didn't do much.
Right. Yeah.
CD Lamb had a good performance on Monday. Brees Hall came through and put up a decent performance. His team produced. Company Man, I'm seeing a whole bunch of single digits on that left side. Ridley 5 points, Hopkins 2.5 points,
That's ouch.
Hollywood Brown 5 points.
Yeah. But and now we get to the matchup that the two people who would have lost to literally every other team in the league this week if they didn't face each other. Break it down, Jerry.
Uh, Hangman Hernandez has been riding the Brock Purdy train. Yeah, 100. Your quarterback went for 125 passing yards. No bueno. Devontae Adams. What? 29 yards receiving. Yeah, that's not going to help nobody. Damian Pierce, 34 yards. Nope. Kenneth Walker hit double digits. And it was sure. Well, the only person in your team, you have one player on your team, actually, technically three. Garrett Wilson actually did a little something because Jalen Hurts and the boys wasn't doing nothing.
And they kept giving the ball. I mean,
They
they
kept
kept
giving them the
giving the
ball. They
Jets the
officially scored.
ball. Every time I looked up, the Jets had the ball.
Jimmy Garoppolo out here with 162 yards.
Also got injured, but it is what it is.
He got injured, but he scored more points than Brock Purdy.
Who played the whole game.
Your leading scorer was Tony Pollard.
And I needed every point. Listen. So people, for those of you who could look at these rosters, you can tell I went into Monday Night Football. So here's the crazy part, right? After the Sunday afternoon game finished, I was down 21 points. And I said in our group chat, I have 3 players to go. At that point, it was Gabe Davis. it was a Gabe Davis, Darren Waller, and Tony Pollard. I said I need the 3 of them to average 7 points each in order for me to get this W. Gabe Davis came out there and proceeded to catch 2 passes, but lost a fumble. And after he lost that fumble in the first quarter and didn't catch another pass until the fourth quarter. So I guess Josh Allen was like, now y'all see why I throw the digs all day long because I can't trust these other suckers. And so I go into Monday Night Football needing 11.8, some close, basically 12 points from Tony Pollard. And it didn't look like I was going to get it until that broken third down play where Dak somehow rolled out of the pocket and dropped the ball to Pollard, who scampered for 60 yards. And I was just holding my breath, thinking, please, Lord, don't let there be a flag for an eligible man downfield or holding no other nonsense like that. And when that flag didn't come, I let loose a glory, glory, hallelujah, because I knew I had escaped. So sorry, Steven. It was an ugly one, but a W is a W, and I broke my losing streak. So I'll take it. So after that victory, let's see where we stand. So not a great week for Jared, but it wasn't the bad week that he had before. Jared got 1, Dr. Deuce got 3, and I got 4. So that brings Jared's percentage up to 33, Dr. Deuce down to 52, and I'm at 47. So Dr. Deuce still has the lead on the season
What
for
is going on?
I know he don't know. I think he's just flipping the coin at this point. He can't be doing these picks for real. So without further ado, let's jump into this week's picks. And like I said, we don't have to do a whole bunch of breakdown. We can just go straight in and make our picks and just give one reason why. So we'll start off this week with the 1-game winning streak devastator versus the currently winless 2 boobs, 2 balls. Jared, who you like?
I'm going with 2 boobs because Josh Allen has the Patriots, who have not been very good lately. You got Drake London versus the Bucks. We can't stop a number 1 wide receiver to save our lives. For example, just go look and see what St. Brown did last week. Yeah, he got to win one eventually, and I think this is the week because he got some favorable matchups. He got your Raiders defense versus Chicago with a backup quarterback. I'll see some interceptions and some sacks coming.
I am not going to pick against myself.
Of course not. I would expect nothing less.
Although I'm tempted to for the percentage. I'm tempted to for the percentage, but I'm not going to pick against myself. I know what Cleveland's defense is, and they are statistically the number 1 defense this year, but Jonathan Taylor is who he is, and he's going to be able to he's got to start getting his feet up under him. So I'm pulling for you to get me the W this week, Jonathan Taylor. All right. Next matchup. Stairway to Evans versus Company Man. Hilarious that one person is 3-3 and in 3rd place. The other person is 3-3 and in 8th place, because that's just how it is around here when you're 3-3 this year. So let's see. Take a look at these matchups. Yeah, I know that this projection is 109 to 109, but this one I don't believe in. I don't believe in Michael Thomas on the Thursday night getting 10. Saquon versus Washington, that defense is better than you're giving them credit for. And Alvin Kamara versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville's defense is better than people think, and it's a short week. But here's the problem. I think this is an issue. Yeah. I'm going to go with Company Man because and it just comes down to the quarterback play. Kenny, I know you've got an emergency quarterback situation going on with Fields being hurt, but I can't trust Pickett. So I'm going to roll with Company Man.
I really can't roll with Pickett myself. If there was anybody else out there, I would play him. But I refuse to pick against myself with Patrick Mahomes playing the way he playing. I can't do it.
Fair enough.
Like you said, I don't believe in Thursday night. Well, I'm not totally against Thursday night football games, but Ridley has been very inconsistent. Michael Thomas is only good for the first half. He gets the first half. Olave gets the second half.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I'm picking myself. I can't do it. I can't pick against myself.
Fair enough. All right. Armed Roger and Hangwood Hernandez. Another 3-3 versus 3-3. Who you like in this one, Jared?
Arm Rodri hasn't finalized his roster because I see he got a kicker on by, but I'm going to go with hanging with Hernandez only because I believe that Devontae Adams gets back on. I believe Devontae Adams gets back on track against a subpar Chicago team. I think Brock Purdy and Shanahan and the boys get back on track against a subpar Minnesota.
Even with
And I might
even with Run CMC out,
have you seen Minnesota play?
I have. Fair enough.
All
Fair enough. All right. I too am gonna go with Hangwood Hernandez. The bye week, the 6 teams on bye this week, so we're gonna see some backups that are thrown into some lineups this week that are gonna be on a wing and a prayer. So which is definitely what we got with Russell Wilson at quarterback this week with Joe Burrow on a bye. So, I mean, I would expect potentially to maybe see Judy thrown in there. I mean, if you have a chance for QB wide receiver stack, why not? So we may see some switches up in that roster, but who knows? But either way, I still like hanging with Hernandez as well. All right. In a matchup of the last two teams in our league that were undefeated after week 4, we got Kirkwood versus the Big Green. Yeah, I'm going with Big Green again. Tua and Tyreek. Like that's a stack I continue to see producing favor for them. McLaurin had a terrible week last week, going up against a Giants defense that is vulnerable. So yeah, I like Big Green.
right. Who is on the Big Green's bench? Out of curiosity, because David Montgomery is not going to play. I don't believe he plays, and I don't see nobody. There's going to have to be some. Yeah, I'm going with Kirkwood because I don't like what I see on the bench.
Indeed.
You got players on by. I don't see no running backs. Yeah, I'm going with Kirkwood. He
Fair enough.
got just I guess you could say the lesser of two evils in this matchup.
Indeed, indeed. All right. Ed Corn versus Muff Divers. Ed Corn, number 2 team in the league right now. Muff Divers on a little bit of a winning streak. Who do you like, Jared?
Before I answer that, who is Acorn's backup quarterback?
He does not have one because in the realm
Uh,
of players who ain't playing this week, this guy ain't playing this week.
and the waiver wire is hot garbage.
Basura.
Super caliente. Just for extra emphasis. Yeah. I guess he going to go play Josh Dobbs. I think he was out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is an ugly matchup, like you said, because of those 6 teams on bye, which is a whole nother conversation and who made the schedule. But we can
This may
discuss
be
that
our
at
this may be our low scoring matchup of the week, like I was in last week.
Yeah, I could see this being a low scoring matchup of the week.
Zach Charbonnet,
But
Ingram, like you running 2 tight ends. You got a tight end in your slot. Like Pitts is definitely a worthy of a flex play position, but if you're running Pitts and Ingram in the same week, you're scraping the barrel.
yeah, because pretty
Yeah.
much. Even though he's running 2 tight ends, I'm gonna have to give him the nod because I don't see. Like I said, I don't know who's out here at quarterback. I think Josh Dobbs is like the only quarterback out there worth playing that I saw. Because trust me, that's how I ended up with Kenny Pickett. I'm going. I'm going with Muff Divers.
I also am going to go with Muff Divers for the same reason. I think that in a coin toss game that's going to come down to one of these unexpected backups doing something like Mayer's going to get his first NFL touchdown this week or something, right? That's going to be a way he scores points. And, Charbonnet's going to find it. He's going to be the one that finds the end zone in Arizona or something crazy. Like it's going to be an unexpected player that breaks out either one of these teams, but I still like Muff Divers.
Yeah.
And then in our final matchup of the week, we have Mathis King versus Super Mario Cristobalin. So third co-host versus Cuzzo. Let's see. Oh, Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen coming off of a tough loss against Dallas at Kansas City, where Herbert has struggled in the past. I don't know. Does he get over those mental blocks? Kareem Hunt had a big bounce back game last week. Hockenson, I like him. On the other side, Hunter Henry has done nothing this season. Latavius Murray, nothing. Ezekiel Elliott, nothing. Yeah, this is a
I
whole
believe.
bunch of bye week hell.
Yeah, I was about to say. I think this is the bye week
This
team over
this
here.
this is a whole bunch of bye week hell, which leads me to pick Super Mario Cristobalin.
I agree because out of curiosity, who's on Dr. Deuce's bench? Because it must be a bunch of people on bye.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, see, I would definitely swap Fryermuth out instead of Hunter Henry because Hunter Henry's done nothing this year. I have him on my fantasy. I had him on my fantasy team in another league, and I can see he had that one good game earlier this year, and he has decided that his best days are behind him, apparently. So, all right. So those are our picks for week 7. Which fantasy games you looking forward to this weekend, Jared? I would try to say which NFL games you looking forward to from a fantasy standpoint this weekend.
Philadelphia and Miami. I see that should be a high scoring affair because Philadelphia's secondary has not been very good this year.
Indeed.
So I think that could be a high scoring one.
Indeed.
For some reason, I believe that Washington and the Giants is going to be fantasy relevant. I do not know why. I don't see it just
because both teams are bad in one big dimension on the defensive side of the ball. The Giants have a bad front four, and the Redskins have a terrible secondary. So both teams have an opportunity to exploit their opponent's weakness on the defensive side of the ball to put up big numbers. So I would agree with that.
Pretty much.
I'm looking forward to this Chargers-Chiefs game. Chargers, after making the playoffs last year, did not expect themselves to be sitting at 2-3 at this point in the season. I can tell you that for sure. Basically, sitting in third, they're sitting in third place in the division right now when they were some people's dark horses to make an AFC championship and challenge the Chiefs. So the Chiefs at home are going to be looking to let the rest of the division know and the rest of the NFL know that the road to the championship still goes through them. So I expect it to be a slugfest. That the Chiefs are going to try to put up a lot of points, which is going to require the Chargers to throw a lot. So that should be a good fantasy implication. After a bye week, Packers going into Mile High Stadium, Jordan Love not looking good the last couple of games. Nothing says nothing says get my fantasy season back on track like seeing that the Broncos defense is your next game. So I expect a big game out of Jordan Love and the Packers offensive players as they travel to Denver for this game. All right. Well, all right, folks. Best of luck in all your fantasy matchups this weekend and all your favorite team matchups this weekend. As always, I wish you best of luck unless your team's playing mine, in which case I hope you a happy L. Peace.